Insurance is there to protect you against the threat of financial loss caused by everyday events. It removes uncertainty by transferring the unknown consequences of losses from theft, fire, floods, or accidents to an insurance company. The protection gained from paying an insurance company a regular sum of money is called a premium. By collecting premiums from many people, the insurer accumulates a pool from which losses can be paid for. We represent short-term insurance companies in Zimbabwe and are here to help you understand how they can help you with everyday insurance, because you never know. For more information, call us on 0242 708 031 up to 2 or visit our offices at number 4 Josiah Tongogara Avenue, Mharadze.
Welcome all our listeners, all our farmers, and once again express our deep gratitude for your continued support of this, or rather of these conversations that have been afforded to us by the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. Now, these conversations, as you know, are really targeted at the farming community, and they have been a logical progression that have taken us from the general and over time taken us into more specific conversations such as livestock. And so it is that today we are now focused on tobacco. What is happening, or what is potentially affecting those of our audience, those of our farmers that are involved in farming, or those that are thinking about getting into this particular area. Now, it's really, really important that we provide you the kind of context that will, I hope, encourage you to continue to tune into these sessions and conversations so that you too can become more enriched with the kind of information that will make a difference. And it's important to understand that, you know, in the kind of intensely competitive environment that you and I are existing, not just locally, but globally, it's important to get access to as much information as possible, because whatever you learn, whatever you pick up and apply as quickly as possible could just make a lot of difference to helping you operate successfully and on the cutting edge of this ever-changing environment. Now, a little bit about the tobacco industry. Many of you who are operating in this industry are fully aware of the history and the significance of tobacco in Zimbabwe. But what may not be known to most of us is that tobacco has become increasingly significant to Zimbabwe and indeed globally. So it was interesting for me to learn that in Africa, Zimbabwe is the largest producer of tobacco. So that was, again, for me, something that made me sit up. But also further, globally, we are the 6th largest producer of tobacco output in the world. So we really are a significant player and contributor to this industry. And for those that are considering, that haven't yet gotten into the game, there is even more incentive. Now, in 2021, Zimbabwe was able to earn $1.2 billion US dollars. That's a lot of money. And if you look at it, whatever your portion is, and whatever you project your portion to be, the reason why it might be worth your while to participate in these conversations is that with our help, you could get your fingers around a little bit of that 1.2 billion. And the projection is by 2025, Zimbabwe would like to be a $5 billion player in this particular industry. So hopefully that's an encouragement to all of you out there so that we can continue to share and build one another's confidence, especially with respect to your decision-making. Now, what will help your decision-making is understanding how to manage risks. And that's essentially what we are doing again today. And managing your risk is being able to identify that risk, to be able to analyze that risk, and to be able to assess that risk so that in future, when you make your decisions, you are more confident when you can anticipate what is going to happen. And you do that by choosing to be proactive rather than reactive to what is happening. And I'm pleased to report that today we are in the company of a very special guest who is a friend of the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. And I'd like to say at this point, good morning and welcome to Mr. James Mharadze, who is both the principal officer and the general manager for CBZ Insurance. James, good morning to you and welcome, sir.
Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, listeners. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's so good to have you right in the middle of winter. Are you coping with winter, sir? You're not too cold where you are, I hope.
A bit cold. You discover that my voice is somehow not very, very normal, but I think I will be able to deliver.
Terrific. You are managing your risk, apparently, and thank you. Wonderful. We are also in the company today, and you will hear from her a little bit later on, is Della Mbarwe, who is representing AgriMedia. So what I will do, without further ado, is jump straight into the conversation so that we can start to hear the insights that we are sure to get from James as we go into the actual program. Listeners, just a reminder of some of the motivation that I suppose is behind the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe's reasoning in providing this platform to all our farmers. We all need to manage our risks. So without further ado, just let me go back to James and say to James, once again, good morning to you. As we start our conversation, James, based on your role in the insurance and exposure to this industry, what is the current state of awareness in the farming sector of the services that exist to help support our farmers in terms of risk management? What do you think is the current state of awareness?
Okay. Well, I think you asked for my opinion. I'll give you my opinion. I think particularly in the tobacco industry, the awareness is there. I think we're looking about at around 80% in terms of the major risks that they face and the available products in the market. So it's a market, I believe, which is sort of somehow informed in terms of what's available, what needs to be done. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting for me, because does this reflect in the level of uptake in terms of the products that are available? What are you seeing in terms of uptake? Because I get the sense when I talk to the odd person that farmers are still not really taking proactive action to protect themselves and manage their risks. What are you seeing?
Thank you for that. I think in terms of the uptake now, I think it's a different issue altogether. I may not give you an exact number as it were, but probably we're looking at anything around 50% of the market in terms of insurance uptake. And what is actually really helping in terms of boosting that number is, I think, the business that is contracted, where you find that it becomes compulsory for the farmers to take up insurance. But where farmers have to elect to take insurance, yes, we are still seeing a huge gap there. Farmers are choosing not to take up insurance and being their own insurers. It's not advisable.
No, I would think not, actually, because as we know, the unexpected does happen. And the only way to prepare it is to proactively anticipate what is going to happen by learning to plan better. So thank you for that background. Now, the other interesting thing about this part of the conversation is what may help our farmers is by learning who is able in the first place to access this kind of cover.
Okay. I think the cover, the insurance solutions that are available across the market, they are available to each and every farmer. we know, and I think it's no longer debatable, that every farmer, I think particularly in the tobacco industry, now understand that I think tobacco farming is a serious business. So as long as I think one is running a business, they should be able to take this kind of cover. It is a must. So the cover is available for both people that are contracted and those that are actually farming on their own, whether small scale or the way to the commercial farmers. It is important that they all take it.
Which again is enlightening, because I think, as you rightfully put it, there are different levels at which people are I guess participating. Some are small scale, some are contract, and it's important to understand, as you just said, that this is available to all the players. And having said that, where can they source this product if indeed they do choose to go in that direction? Because the other thing is, knowing where to go is equally important.
Okay, thanks very much for that. We have got 19 insurance companies that are registered in Zimbabwe to write this kind of business. And these companies are listed, I think, on the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe website, and their Facebook page as well, on the IPEC page. So we have got 19 offices that also have branches scattered across the country. And so the client can actually walk into any of those offices and take up the insurance. But again, we also have 2 other channels. They can get the coverage from insurance brokers. And we've got, I think, around 30 or so insurance brokers that are registered, and they can still provide this service as well. We also have a number of registered insurance agents who can also sell this kind of product. So we do have, I think, over 50 entities and channels that clients can use in terms of getting this kind of cover. If someone is not very sure, they can still, I think, get references from the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe so that they get the help that they need.
That's very useful. That's very useful, and thank you. So having covered that particular part of it, let's move on to the next thing, which is now, where are the benefits? What are the benefits of the cover? You know, we talk about how the unexpected has become the norm, but what's equally motivating, I'm sure, to the average farmer is knowing that and understanding, more importantly, what they will benefit if they do engage in this kind of relationship.
Okay, thank you for that. Essentially, the insurance benefits really come in 3 forms. I think there's cover. The benefit, I think, is the coverage that one gets, and the major, these normally for the risks that farmers face whilst the crop is in the farm, in the field, when the crop is in transit, whether to the curing facilities or to the market, and when the crop is actually being cured. So that cover those 3 stages gives sort of different benefits. I will probably just touch on that a little bit. We do have what we call a hail and windstorm cover, which is essentially for crop that is in the field. So if at the occurrence of either hail or windstorm or both, you then have the insurance coming in to pay the farmer what they would have lost, which is whatever cages would have been assessed as lost when the particular event then happens. We also have, I think, a coverage which gives benefits for what we call a field flow cover, where I think essentially you've noted that I think the first one was just looking at a hailstorm and windstorm cover. The field to flow is much wider, looks at such risks as fire, riots, strikes, malicious damage to the crop. I think we've seen a lot of that in this market. Storm damage, I think, destruction of the crop while it's in storage facilities, theft during transit. So you find that with this one, it has the other elements that you don't normally find on a health and windstorm coverage. And over and above that, I think while the crop is in the pan, there is a particular policy coverage that then pays farmers benefits. If whilst I think they are curing their tobacco, there is destruction, I think, on the pans. And normally this comes, I think, in the form of storms, in the form of things like your windstorms, flooding, and the like. So that's essentially the policy will then respond to those particular issues. And the underlying principle is that the insurance comes in to pay or indemnify the farmer in terms of the value of the crop or the insured item, in some cases, the lands. What they've actually lost is what they then get compensation for. Over to you, Patrick.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And James, you talked earlier on about the possibility of cover as they transport the crop to wherever it is that it must go to. Now, we know that the state of our roads is not necessarily the best just at the moment. Are you able to relate any specific incidents that have happened during transportation of tobacco from the farm to the actual floor?
Yes, the major issue there is theft, where you find that I think in most cases, whilst I think the crop is in transit to the market, there are obviously cases where you find that I think people are robbed of their crop. And this is the major issue that we see normally, I think, when it comes to transit risks.
Wow. Are you able to relate that in any to any degree in terms of numbers? What are some of the frequently sort of recurring patterns that you've seen perhaps in this season that farmers might be advised to know?
Okay, I may not give you numbers per se, but what I know overall, I think for this particular season across the market, this past season, the total number, I think the value of the claims that we received, not just necessarily for this particular risk, I think the total for everything was about three times the premium that the insurance market received. And out of those claims, about 10% it can be attributed to the transit risks. I think you are aware, Patrick, and our listeners may also be aware that we've seen, I think, an increase in theft and burglary incidences across, I think, the whole country, and it has actually also gone into tobacco, essentially because people are aware of how valuable tobacco is. So yes, I think around 10% of those claims have been coming, particularly from theft and burglary.
Wow. Yeah. The economic conditions certainly are not helping. And just taking you back to the farm, do you see any particular sort of pattern emerging in terms of the kind of incidents that occur that also expose farmers to risk?
Yes, I think there are quite many. For example, I think what we have seen particularly on the field to floor cover, the fire risk. We have noted that I think a number of our farmers are not sticking to the recommended farming practice around fire guards. You find that even on the products that we sell, there is a condition there which farmers have got to abide by, where I think in between their fields, they've got to have a fire guard that is at least 4 meters. And that fire guard should be free of any material that can easily catch fire. The only thing that's allowed, I think, on a fire guard is growing vegetation, but that should not also exceed around should not exceed about 15 centimeters. So the fire guard has to be maintained right from the start of the season to the end. But we have seen that I think a number of farmers are not sticking to that, and then we always have around fire guards. Also, one of the things that we have also seen is that a number of barns are not being repaired on time, to the extent that when the crop is now being cured, you then find that the roofs are leaking, and then you also find that probably some parts are leaking, and it's something that insurers would not normally want to pay the farmer for, because the expectation is that these premises are always maintained and good practices are being followed. So I think those two are the ones that I can easily pick up in terms of what is something that the farmers can actually direct their attention at.
Yeah, I must admit, in my conversations as well, the aspect of repair and maintenance is something that does come up fairly frequently. So we'd like to take the opportunity to encourage all our farmers, as long as they are out there, to get into a culture of repair and maintenance, because, as they say, a stitch in time saves 9. So let's move from that. I think that you've done a good job sort of creating a foundational understanding what is available and indeed the benefit and likely threats to farming activity. But now, James, I think let's move to something slightly more solid in terms of improving their understanding. How are premiums calculated? What is the calculation of premiums? What is the approach? Is there a general approach by industry that will help our farmers to understand how premiums are calculated?
Okay, thank you for that, Patrick. Generally, we apply a premium rate, a percentage that we apply on the value of the crop that is insured. And that percentage can be anything between, for tobacco, anything between 4% and 10%. The difference comes in terms of the claims experience of the farmers. There are some farmers that never claim, and they get what are known as no claim discounts. So the pricing becomes quite affordable and discounted for them. Those that get involved in unfortunate incidents on a recurring basis will also, I think, be the ones where the rate is slightly higher because of those adjustments. Maybe just a bit of detail. When it comes to the computation of the sum insured, we are really looking at the production of the farmer, expected production, obviously validated by their experiences in terms of the past 3 to 5 years, where, for example, we are simply looking at wanting to compute the total number of kgs they are likely to produce for the season. We also then look at the average price that they are likely to sell at for the season. That then gives us, I think, their total production, and then we apply the premium rate against that. I may need to just clarify, because you normally have 2 kinds of farmers or 2 kinds of computations. We do have, in some cases, farmers that are contracted, and the insurance is just arranged on an input cost basis. So essentially, the insurance coverage and the pricing will also relate to that. So their total production, or the total sum at which they're insured, becomes the value of the contract. That's what we then compute the premium rate against. But for those, but there are some contracts where even someone is contracted, they still take up the full cover, which is the yield cover. On yield cover, we just have to look at the total production and not limit it to the input cost. I hope I haven't confused Patrick.
Yes, indeed. I think it's certainly a good introduction to those who may not have heard or understood it before. In fact, it brings to mind something that Rawlings from AgriMedia has also shared with us in the past, and that I would also like to ask you, the aspect of record keeping. How well are our farmers doing in terms of record keeping? What do your relationships reveal in that area?
I would say it would seem like I'm favoring tobacco farmers, but I think the record keeping in as far as tobacco farmers is concerned, I think we really appreciate. Almost like each and every farmer makes efforts in trying to make sure that they do have the records, because I think over the years, they've seen that it benefits them a lot to keep records. I would say that we need historical records for the purposes of computing, I think, even the value at risk. Remember, I said we validate to say how have you been performing in the past 3 to 5 years and so forth. So without records, a farmer will not be able to support any particular amount they want to insure it. And we end up, I think, just giving them an average coverage, which may not really speak to what they are actually, what is obtaining on the ground. So it's very, very important. I think the issue of records helps just for the purposes of getting the having the insurance done, and it's also validating yields that if, for example, there are losses, there is an element of the past records that we also use to compute the likely loss. So it's very, very important that records are kept, and our farmers, I think we may not be at 100%, but I think in as far as tobacco is concerned, I think the records are there and they are very, very crucial.
Yeah, that's very useful. And thank you for that. So again, a reminder to all our farmers to develop robust systems of record keeping that can only help. But moving on, James, our next question, I think, will focus now on the process of making claims. What do you see? Is this fairly standard throughout the industry? Perhaps you can speak to your own experience, or if there is, as I say, a standard procedure to claiming, what would that process be that we can share with our farmers?
Okay. The process, let me just say right at the outset that the process is like almost the same, because I think over the years we have been sitting as insurance companies to make sure that we come up with something that is standard, to then make sure that I think there is enough protection for our farmers. So the process really starts with the farmer notifying insurers that they have indeed suffered a loss. And there is a standard timeline. The requirement, particularly for this kind of a crop, is 48 hours. Within 48 hours, a farmer should notify the insurance company or the insurance broker that they suffered a loss. And immediately, the insurance company ensures that there is an assessment that is done. I want to emphasize that it is a requirement that each and every loss is assessed, because essentially an insurance company would cover a loss that has been assessed. There's no another way of verifying a claim other than assessing. So assessment is a very crucial process. So normally these assessments are normally done, say, within a period of upon notification, within 24 hours, insurers would have sent an assessor to come to the field. Normally, I think the assessment is then done with representatives of the farmer or with the farmer present. The requirement is that I think once the assessment, the assessor explains in detail how they are going to do the assessment, there's an agreement in the process and why they are doing that. When the assessment is done, they are supposed to then agree with the farmer in terms of the findings, and the farmer can also sign off the assessment report itself. Very, very crucial, so that we know there is agreement. Obviously, insurers would then, once they've received the assessment report, also do their own background work in terms of assessing whether the assessment was properly done and everything. If everything is okay, and there's no need for another assessment, the insurers then wait for the client, for the farmer to go all the way to harvesting. They harvest the crop, they sell everything. Once all the sales have been lodged with the auction floors, the insurers will then use the sales sheets to compute the average price per kg for the farmer, which they will then use to come up with the claim amount, because the assessment is essentially done to determine the actual kgs, the actual weight, the actual kgs in terms of the tobacco lost. So once that is there, the next thing we want to have the price, which is then computed, I think, at the end of the season, having looked at all the sales sheets. And after that, the payment is supposed to come in. I think once the information is on hand, within 24 hours, the insurers should be able to make a payment to the farmer.
Very interesting and also very informative. Thank you, James. Right, the final question, and thank you for your contribution thus far, certainly very insightful. James, you will know that, and I think this goes even beyond the tobacco industry, the bulk of Zimbabwean industry is sometimes held back by a lack of trust. And how we resolve challenges as and when they occur, how we manage grievance is a particular area that affects the level of trust between client and the service provider. What does the insurance industry offer in terms of managing grievances as and when they occur?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the industry, I think through IPEC, our regulator, he has got what we call treating customers fairly policies. These essentially advise IPEC, the general public, in terms of how grievances and complaints are treated. So normally the procedure is that once I think the farmer has got to a stage where they've got a complaint, a grievance, they raise it initially with the insurance company. The insurance company normally details, I think, to the farmer what the kind of internal procedures are. They go through that process, and if still they are not happy, there are two other things that they can do. Go through to ICZ, which is the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. There is a liaison committee that handles such type of matters. And once I think they go through in terms of whether phoning arrangements are then made to then make sure that the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe pursues the particular insurer and the matter is resolved. If for some instance it has not been resolved, I think again, the farmers can go through IPEC, the regulator, the Insurance and Pensions Commission. They also have got a unit that looks at these matters of complaints and grievances, and they then make sure that there is liaison between the client, the insurer, and IPEC to make sure that the matter is brought to completion. If everything fails, I think again there's a route for arbitration. And from what we have seen in the past, we have not had really cases going all the way for arbitration to the arbitration, because they're resolved, I think, within those first three routes that I mentioned.
Very encouraging, James, and thank you so much. Yeah, I think we've all benefited from your knowledge of the industry and indeed the clients themselves. And I think on that last note, what we want to remind our farmers is to remain open. I think the purposes of this conversation is to make them aware of the role of the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. So indeed, if you are finding that you are facing challenges and you need in certain cases, some kind of compensation or redress of situations that have not gone as you expect. We would like your feedback, and this platform exists for that very reason. And with that in mind, we have a few minutes, and we'd like to use the few minutes left to engage in a Q&A, a question and answer session. So for that purpose, I'd like to hand over to our partners at AgriMedia to take over at this particular point.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, indeed, we have received a number of comments and questions from our listeners and our farmers. So the first one actually is a comment from Simbarashe, who says, thanks ICZ for this insightful webinar, much appreciated. Thank you so much, Simbarashe. Then we have Mr. Katonga, who says, I have joined in late and I'm not so sure if you covered this, but what is the smallest acreage that you can cover?
There is no limit as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, I think from one camera to the other, there might be differences in application, but there is no limit. We cover from the smallest to the largest that can ever be available.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mharadze. Then we have Mharadze, who is saying, last year I lost 5 hectares of tobacco and luckily I was insured and managed to recover. Thanks for that comment, Mharadze. Then we have Mrs. Gotora, who is asking, who is saying, how long does it take to get paid after loss?
When the sales process has happened and the client has lodged all sales sheets and they've been received by the insurer, it should normally take anything between 48 and 72 hours for the payment to come through.
Okay, thank you for that. Tatina is asking, how much is insurance, say, for 10 hectares? And do you also cover for loss from hailstorms?
Yes, the coverage for hailstorm is there. I would want to get a bit of some detail so that at least we can come to the actual amount. But in my earlier discussion, I just indicated that the premium rate, particularly for hail and windstorm, is anything between 4% to 10% of the value insured. So I think you can do the computations on that basis, and I'm sure you get an idea.
Thank you for that. We have Mr. Maseko, who is saying, sorry, I've joined in late. Please come again on the claim process.
Okay, the claim process, I mentioned that claims are supposed to be reported within 48 hours. An assessor is appointed, the assessment is done, signed off by the farmer, and once everything is in order, there is agreement in terms of the way forward, whether there is some reaping that has to start, and also that they're going to, the insurers will then wait for the submission of all the sales sheets and then pay the claim at the end of the season.
Okay, thank you for that. Then Mrs. Sirea is asking, is weather index insurance applicable in tobacco?
Yes, I can assure you that is the market. I think in our various structures, we are working on products, I think, to really look at weather index, and not only in tobacco, but also a number of other crops. I can assure you that in this coming season, we will be seeing, I think, 1 or 2 new products around that area, but yes, it's applicable.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mharadze. So the last one that I'm going to take is from Robert, and he's saying, does insurance also cover, okay, he's saying, does insurance also cover during transportation from the farm to the floors?
Yes, the insurance does cover transportation, particularly your theft during transportation. It's very, very important that when clients are taking the cover, is, for example, if they're insuring for tobacco, hail, and windstorm, also tick that box on the proposal form for field to floor cover, because that's the one that extends to transit risks. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you for taking all the questions, and over to you, Patrick.
Della, thank you so much for your participation. It is good to meet you virtually. And James, thank you for fielding those questions so competently. I think that what is clear is that the level of participation remains high. And so we'd like to take this time to thank our farmers for participating in the way that they do. And we encourage any form of feedback that they have is very, very useful and always welcomed by the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. So by all means, please continue to give us the feedback that you have been. Before we bring matters to a close, I would like to perhaps come back to you, James. Do you have 1 or 2 words as a final note before we bring things to a close?
Yes, Patrick, I think I want to encourage farmers to make sure that they don't leave things to chance. Risk management entails that you do something to manage the risks. We encourage you to take up insurance products for your tobacco. It's quite valuable. Tobacco farming is a serious business and we should treat it as such. Please do take insurance and make sure that your crop is comprehensively covered. Thank you.
That's fantastic. James, thank you. That's Mr. James Mharadze, Principal Officer and General Manager for CBZ Insurance, who today really served as our guest on behalf of the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. We thank you, sir, and look forward again to sharing with you in the very near future. We also take the opportunity to thank our partners, as usual, Agribusiness Media and Brand Africa, who have created this platform and, as usual, make it available for all our farmers. Thank you to all of you. And thank you once again to everybody. It's been great to have you. And we will keep you informed, keep your cell phones handy, and we will bring you the next update from the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe on our next conversation. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Insurance is there to protect you against the threat of financial loss caused by everyday events. It removes uncertainty by transferring the unknown consequences of losses from theft, fire, floods, or accidents to an insurance company. The protection gained from paying an insurance company a regular sum of money is called a premium. By collecting premiums from many people, the insurer accumulates a pool from which losses can be paid for. We represent short-term insurance companies in Zimbabwe and are here to help you understand how they can help you with everyday insurance, because you never know. For more information, call us on 0242 708 031 up to 2 or visit our offices at number 4 Josiah Tongogara Avenue, Harare.